Howdy ho ho, my good humans. How the hell are thy doing? This is Unnecessary Rambling. I'm Brandon Sylvia, joined by the homie Loon to do our monthly rankings, ranking every game we played in the month of August, and Loon also ranking some of the games he played in July as well, since he had the COVID last time we did the
Mm,
ranking. So glad to have you on for this one, man.
yeah, lots of games piled up. I had to cut the fat. Otherwise, would be talking for about 9 hours.
Definitely, man. Well, I uh we can kind of jump in wherever you want to. Obviously, I'll kick it to you first since you got quite the list here to go over. If you want to just pick whichever
Is
one you want to start with, man.
is there any criteria as to like a capping on how many S's and stuff like that? Or
No, hell no. You can whatever you feel is a S tier game, you slot it down there in the S tier and so forth
uh,
and so on. I didn't add the did not finish, but enjoyed. Yeah, who cares? Just throw it in whatever tier you feel like it fits into.
um, I think yeah, I'll start off with like the S's and stuff and work my way down. Elden Ring straight in there.
Straight in the
Um,
S tier. This is the Erd. I should have grabbed the Erd Tree logo.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, in your defense, after I beat Erdtree, I did two playthroughs for the wrapping up of the 100%. So
Wow.
technically, I did play the base game. So, and I was waiting for the DLC because I don't see them doing a second DLC for Elden Ring. I'd be very surprised. I think they're ready to just move on and do the next thing. But wow, what a DLC.
Yeah.
Like, I know people are kind of on the fence as to whether it should qualify for like a nod at Game of the Year. It it definitely feels big enough and complete enough as a package to be its own game. Like that could have probably been like maybe not on the scale of like a full-fledged sequel, but kind of like how you see like Wolfenstein, the Old Blood, kind of like a standalone thing. They could have easily done that and repackaged it, and people would have been happy paying for it. But the DLC overall, I think I explained it. It has the highest highs in any FromSoft game and the lowest lows
Uh,
at the same time. So the balancing is kind of bizarre because it has its own separate leveling system, separate from the base game. So you have your normal levels that you bring in, but to make sure people didn't just completely walk through the content with like level 300 characters, they had a fragment system, is what it was called. And these were collectibles that you would find out in the world um, to also push you to explore the map even more. And that would just give you flat stat boosts. And they were like very, very noticeable. Like when we got to about the midway point in the DLC, the person I was co-oping it through, he was kind of just like bulldozing through and wasn't exploring as much. And you're talking, he was getting one shot by enemies while it was taking like 5 to 6 hits for me. So it's a little bit of a weird balancing thing, but overall, I think it's incredible. Like the weapons that they added and the bosses are just as usual, like what you'd expect, just pure spectacle, bar the
yeah.
final boss. That's something that they really struggle with. Is usually the final boss is either exceptional or they really drop the ball. And I really didn't enjoy that final boss in the DLC. I think
Yeah,
it,
I heard people had to like completely respect their character and stuff because it was
yeah,
such a
I did.
specific, yeah. That might have been you that told me, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually like an aggressive on the front foot kind of thing, and I just couldn't like you got punished. There were very, very minimal openings to the point where I didn't just have to like mildly change, I just had to turtle. I had to sit behind a shield and just poke, and it was a very unengaging fight for me.
You said
So
something earlier, and I'll go ahead and tie my next game into it. You said, this feels like a big enough expansion to qualify for Game of the Year for Elden Ring. That makes me think about Yakuza, Kiwami, and just Yakuza games in general, where they would qualify because they're technically new games. But the Erdtree expansion sounds just as much, if not more, of a new game than like going from Yakuza 1 to Yakuza 2 or Yakuza 0 to Yakuza 1. You know what I mean? Like it
Mm.
I don't really that's the one thing because I don't like having DLC nominated for Game of the Year either. For some reason it just doesn't feel right to me. But I wouldn't feel weird if like Yakuza, back in whatever 2016 or whatever, if Yakuza 6 was nominated. But it's like, well, it's very similar to the. Other games, so it's weird. But I'll go ahead and talk about Yakuza Kiwami. I'm gonna throw it in the B tier. I I thought that the story setup was really cool. Um, I don't like playing as Kiryu a lot.
Oh, damn.
I love the Majima, right? The from Yakuza 0. I love the
Yep.
speed and the pace of his combat. I did think it was cool, and I do think the story setup is better in Yakuza 1 than Yakuza 0. I like the mini games, or they're really not even mini games, like fully fleshed out the real estate and the bar management and all that stuff more in Yakuza 0. It's hard to really story wise. I was more engaged from the get-go with Yakuza 1, but I think towards the end it started to taper off a little bit for me. Um, and it just I understand why they like made you worse at combat, obviously, like through story reasons. Which I guess that's not a spoiler. It happens early on in the game when you come back from prison, and it's like all these years have passed, so you've lost a lot. You got a little bit rusty with your combat skills, but it just makes combat kind of slog for the first 3-ish, 4-ish hours until you get all your abilities back upgraded. So that would be a complaint for me. And yeah, it's a lot more of what Yakuza 0 was. I'm sure Yakuza 2 will be the same, and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, but hopefully like just small incremental upgrades throughout the entire process. But thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, unfortunately, they do that in every title where they like obviously scale you back to the starting point, and it does. I can understand that sentiment of it does slow the combat down in them opening chapters because the story as well is usually pretty slow to pick up in any Yakuza game in like the beginning 2 hours and stuff.
That
So
that's the
yeah,
one thing I will say. The opening of Yakuza Kiwami is so strong. Like, you know, uh, whatever. But the whole like being framed aspect and all of that shit, the entire setup was really interesting at the beginning of that game. But how do you feel about moving on to Star Wars Outlaws for our next one?
I
Since we've
do want to
both
pick your brain on it because obviously not only was it something that we both heavily anticipated, you're playing it on a different system than me. I assume you went for the PS5
yeah,
route,
I got the
and I'm
physical.
really interested to know, were you one of the people that had to delete your save files?
So let's start there. And let me say first off, before I even get into this, that shit is unacceptable. If you
Hmm.
cannot launch a game that people are paying $100+ for and giving them early access and have it in a complete format, then don't fucking charge people that money. That is egregious, man. That is egregious. Ubisoft, come on, dude. So just for people who aren't aware, there was an early access period where you could pay up to $130. You could get in for $100. And it would give you the game 3 days early. So I jumped in on that. Loon, I think you did as well.
Yep.
So paid the $100, got the game 3 days early. Thankfully, I wasn't able to play it until the following day. So,
Mm.
well, I guess technically the day it actually launched, but I didn't get to play at that 9 p.m. mark or whatever that most or a lot of people who got early access jumped in at. I had to wait till the next day. So by the time I booted it up, the version
The
1.2 or
patch went
whatever,
live. Yeah,
it
the
was
patch
already
went live.
live. So
Cool.
none of my progress got erased. But what
Whew.
I can't. Did yours?
No, because that's what I was saying about the different systems. Xbox didn't experience it. It's not something we didn't get. Even if you went day one on Xbox, it's only a PlayStation 5 bug.
Oh wow, that's so
That's what
weird.
made it even more crazy. And it's why the thing in my head that's spinning is like, I know that it's probably a big issue Wukong not launching on Xbox because of the Series S, but there was other rumors that it also didn't hit their quality assurance. They got
Well,
denied certification process.
I just
And I'm
saw
thinking that maybe, this is PlayStation not being as thorough as they could be.
I just saw before we went live that, and just rumor whatever, but Paul Tassi from Forbes has some inside scoop that Black Myth Wukong is actually money had it. That PlayStation actually did pay for it to be
Uh,
exclusive. So it's like, damn, dude,
if that's the case, just be transparent with it.
yeah,
If that is the case, like don't do all this like backroom dealing. That's yeah.
that'd be dirty. If that was the case, that'd be really, really dirty. Especially
I
like you
hope that
said,
that's not the case.
I don't think, listen, I don't know. I don't think that someone from Forbes would report on it. But listen, modern mainstream media, like what, but I think Paul Tassi is pretty legit. But regardless, we'll another video for another day whenever more information on that comes out. But Star Wars Outlaws. So I am about 14, somewhere in the like 12 to 14 hours in. I didn't, I played a little bit more today. I didn't check the hour count today, but I would assume somewhere around 12 to 14 hours. And I I fucking really enjoy it. I really, really enjoy the game. There are some serious flaws with the game that whenever other people are like, man, I hate those forced stealth missions, whenever you have to complete the mission without raising any alarms. And then if you raise an alarm, you're set back to the beginning of the mission. They're like, man, the checkpointing sucks, yada, yada, yada. I get some of that stuff. I think a little bit of it does come down to the fact that reviewers were given like 6 or 7 days to complete a 30, 40 hour game. And I think that whenever you're getting reset back to a beginning of a mission after you get spotted in stealth, that becomes much more of an issue whenever you only have 6 days to finish a 40-hour game. And those 10, 15-minute segments can start to stack up to your overall hour counter. So, once again, another dumb move by Ubisoft. Get those fucking codes out earlier if you got a game this big and you want people to play it thoroughly. So, um, but yeah, I've really, really enjoyed it. I don't think there's another game out there that is tackling a mix of Grand Theft Auto, Metal Gear, Uncharted, Tomb Raider, like blending all three of those styles of gameplay into one another. I've never really experienced another game doing something like this. Um, but it doesn't do third person blockbuster high octane action as good as Uncharted. It doesn't do open world crime sandbox as good as Grand Theft Auto. It doesn't do stealth, stealth espionage whatever as good as Metal Gear Solid. But it does all of them good enough, and it's rare enough to get something that is this ambitious and unique that it's really, really working for me.
Yeah, no, I've been enjoying it a lot. I think I'm at probably about the 10-hour mark, so a little bit less than you. Um, what I put in the Discord is like I did my first initial impressions of like the opening hour, and then I think I did one when I was like 6 hours deep. And I'll be doing one later on tonight. And I played a little bit more. I think because I was looking at the reviews and stuff, and people really are dragging it through the mud big time. Um, I don't think it's as bad as people are saying with a lot of the things. Like as you said, that day one bug is unacceptable.
Yeah.
That fan that flame and make sure that is heard, absolutely. Everything else, like I've not really run into any like actual bugs, like no crashes at all. None of that stuff. The things that I I really felt could have used improving is I think it's kind of probably because it's gone for a 12 age rating thing. The takedown system is really dull and really
Yes, it
goofy
is.
looking because it just looks so comical. Like it just doesn't. And the thing is that we know Assassin's Creed can do juicy combat takedowns. Like in Valhalla and stuff, you have crunching and juicy like melee combat and stuff like that. And there's just none of that in this game, and I think it's because they've tried to like bring down the age rating to have as wide of an audience as possible. So it's kind of suffered from that. But I'm enjoying like the majority of the other aspects. Like you said, it's a good blend. It's not a perfect blend of all them three, but it's a good blend. And the way I described it was, it felt a lot like a Splinter Cell Blacklist, in
Mm.
the way it does like the stealth and stuff like that. With how everything that it's not like Assassin's Creed Valhalla where you can free climb everything. It's very linear in how you climb the stuff and interact with it. But it feels, I don't know, it feels compact and a lot easier to digest though at the same time. Like I'm enjoying the size of the game.
Yes, very much so. And to add to your point about the stealth, it's really a bummer because they prioritize stealth so much that you kind of forget often how good the shooting is in this
Mhm.
game. Like the third person shooting is really, really solid. It's intuitive with the cover systems. Like she gets into cover really seamlessly. There's no button you have to press. You just, you slide across the ground, press circle. She gets into cover. Whenever you pop up, it's like the perfect range. You can just press R2 and she kind of jumps up over cover, but still keeps herself somewhat uh somewhat closed off, somewhat behind cover to where she's not getting blasted. But it's really damn hard if you go out of stealth. Like if you want to take an more action approach, even whenever there is no incentive or no goal to not raise the alarm. Like if you just say, "Ah, fuck it, I want to go through this guns blazing," it's really, really tough. So it once again incentivizes you to use stealth, which I think are the weaker aspects of the entire game, where it's just there's no mechanics. Like that's what I'm saying. You can compare it to Metal Gear because you're crawling through different vents and popping up out, and but it's you're pressing square, and that's it for the entirety of your stealth encounter. You go up behind someone, press square. You can't grab them, keep them in a chokehold, like put your gun up to them. So, all right, give me the if they got a key or
Yeah, there's
whatever,
no
give me the damn key.
interrogations. Yeah, there's no interrogations. There's no, it's all entry level stealth, like very basic. There's not much back and forth, which is very unfortunate for how much, like you said, it prioritizes it.
I jumped up on a ledge and there was an enemy right there, and I couldn't even like swoop his leg.
I know.
And
Yep. I tried doing that on an Imperial outpost.
I mean, there was even one where cause like they have the cool ass fucking grapple hook or whatever, where you can swing across like Uncharted or Tomb Raider or whatever. There was one time I did that and there was an enemy right below me, and I was expecting a button prompt to press to pop up to where I could press square, drop down on him with an elbow or some crazy shit. None of that was there. And it's like, why are y'all prioritizing stealth so much if that's one of the weaker aspects of your entire game? And like Massive is a third person shooter factory. Like the Division. You know what I mean? That
Mm.
that's not a melee combat centric or stealth combat centric game, and those are the two weakest parts of Outlaws to me is the melee combat and the stealth. The shooting is really, really good. The atmosphere is god tier. This is the most atmospheric Star Wars world I've ever been inside of in video game form by a mile, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because you had like Jedi Survivor, which looks beautiful, but you had very, very slim slices of seeing the world outside of like the open world aspects. Like you were very briefly in them like cantinas and stuff.
Yes.
Whereas this, you have this like I don't remember the name of the city that you first go to, but it's so compact and so claustrophobic. And it introduces you to, yeah, you just hear the chatter and you're able to listen into things and gain intel and go gambling and stuff. And the
Sabak, dude.
yeah, Sabak.
So fun.
That's the thing. Ubisoft kill it with minigames. Like their minigame output isn't on the level of Yakuza, but they
No.
they know how to make something good and fun.
Dude, I played Sabak for probably an hour of my of
Mm,
my 12, 14 hours. I went on a whole never mind. I'll just say this. You run into a character through a Sabak quest, and it's just like a missable thing.
hmm
And you're like, what the fuck? It's an awesome, awesome quest. And that's the thing, dude. there's so many random encounters that'll just pop up where you'll walk up, you're walking down the street, it's like, hey, come over here. You walk over there and it's a guy real down on his luck. He just lost a bunch of money gambling. He's like, I'm gonna hit big. I promise you I'm gonna hit big. If you loan me some money, I'll get you back. I'll get you back, I promise, with interest. Motherfucker. And that's the thing. Kay is a scoundrel, a hustler, but the world around her is full of scoundrels and hustlers, and they'll hustle her if you're not
Because she's
smart.
not good at it as well. She's kind of a wobbly, like she's technically an outlaw and a hustler, but she's still getting to grips with it, it feels like. So she can easily just get walked all over. And it does, it happens many times.
Yeah, I mean, almost immediately when you first boot up the game, there's somebody who they're like, hey, give me $50 and I'll get you VIP access into
I
this.
know, I fell for it as
I did
well.
too. But then
Uh,
later on in the game, there, like I said, the dude that's outside and he's begging for some cash. I'm loaded with credits at this point. I'm just grabbing everything. And I love being in the world so much. Like literally just scavenging and going through these different locations. I want to look at everything, grab everything off the ground. So I'm just selling all these valuables. I have credits galore. And so I gave the dude $500 or 500 credits. And that's like the most you can give him or whatever.
yeah.
And 3 hours go by. I don't even think about it. And then I come back and spoilers for a side. Do you mind if
I mean, it'll
it's
be interesting to hear what the other, because I went with the 100. So I'll happily hear what the other option was.
okay. So did you get back to him at this point yet?
No, not yet. But it's a very minor side quest. I doubt there's gonna be like, and here's the Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's literally it's 2 seconds of a quest where the payoff. I'll put some spoiler tags in just in case. But you go up to him and he's decked out in this fucking sick ass clothing, and you're like, "Yo, what did you do with my money?" And he's like, "No, I hit big." And he gives you, I gave him 500. He gave me like 750 or 800 credits back. And so he gets you back with interest. He actually does come through for you. You don't get totally scammed. One of the few times in this world that someone's actually, their intentions are pure.
It's gonna be interesting if I go back to him because I gave him the lower amount. If he's gonna then scam me, because he'd be like, "Ah, you cheapskate, little."
Right. Yeah, dude.
That'd be interesting.
And like you said, the arcade games are fun. I had one I was trying to get a high score on this like little racing game where I'm trying to hit these speed pads and dodge out of the way of these different roadblocks. And I've had so much fun just existing in the space that they created. I just wish they would have focused on the third person shooting. The stealth is just way too limited for it to be like the main core mechanic for combat.
Yeah, especially with how unforgiving it is.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I will concede that like is one thing saying about stealth and stuff, but if you get caught on their turf, it can be instant and then you just boot it out.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, that's really strict. Holy crap. Like you don't even give me like a an opportunity. Like it would have been cool to have like a Han Solo thing of like talk your way out of it kind of thing. Like, oh no, I'm meant to be here. And kind of like how the Outer Worlds did that with when you go and disguise yourself, you go into the enemy's thing, and you're able to kind of push your luck a little bit if you're not
Totally.
stealthing perfectly. So yeah.
I did click record. Yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if I hit record on that damn thing. Um, no, 100%, man. And also, like, we're not even talking about the fact that you get a damn speeder bike where you're roaming around this world just free roaming. You get upgrades to the bike where you can hover across water, get these speed bursts. Dude, there's so much the ship flying around, actually flying around in space. And yeah, it's pretty much just like Starfield. It's nothing crazy complex or mechanically just that's going to blow you away, but you can upgrade your ship, get different customization, like you can get different coats of paint for the ship, different a bunch of shit, different turrets, different missiles. Um and once again, it's not anything that's going to blow you, like it's not on the level of chorus or whatever, but it's cool that it has all of these different elements, these different features, And none of them are the pinnacle of the pinnacle, but they're all pretty damn good. And when you mix a bunch of pretty good ingredients into a pot, like you can come up with something that's actually great, even though none of the individual pieces are great. The mixture of it comes out so well. Um, I've really been I've been enjoying the shit out of this, man.
I want to be interested to hear where you put it.
For me, I would put it in the A category.
Perfect.
Okay.
Because that's about as much as I'm enjoying it. Like, it's because it's so important that you go in with correct expectations. If you went in the mindset thinking it's going to be the greatest Star Wars story ever told, it's the greatest space thing, but and all of this, then you're just putting yourself up for failure. Like right there and then. Like we both knew it's going to be a Ubisoft formula, which we're both fine with. So we know that it's going to contain a plethora of systems that at max will probably be 7 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10 in execution, but they won't drop below like 4 and 5. Like it's always it's just a solid game.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's a good game and it's you're having fun with it and I'm having fun with it and that's the main thing.
And
That's
I
the most
think
important thing.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and admit some bias that I didn't even know existed. I think I just might be a massive Star Wars game guy. Like I
Mm,
I guess that's just a thing for me because Jedi Survivor last year was my game of the year. And I'm kind of thinking that Outlaws might fall into that camp as well. I don't know, but it because I haven't finished it yet. But I will say that it starts off so slow. They make so many weird mistakes. Massive did with this game, which is really bizarre because Avatar out the gate was punchy going. You got right into the flow of it. With Outlaws, man, it takes like 4 hours before you get all of your
yeah,
shit, before you get your ship and your speeder, and like before you're fully on your way into your scoundrel escapades, man. It takes a long time to get there.
yeah, definitely a slow start. I think because they've only done the division before this, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
So this is a team that made a third person MMO. So they've only ever done story slither. They've never done like a proper chunky story. So you can feel them kind of wobbling a little bit. It's that thing where, you had Respawn who did Titanfall 1, Titanfall 2, and you can see that I think this is going to be the same. If you keep massive on these single player titles, they're only just going to get better at
yeah,
doing it. This
yeah,
is when you look at it through that lens of they gave you the Division 1, the Division 2. The Division 2 was a step up from the Division 1, and this is also a step up from that. So I'm interested to see what they do next.
How have your technical issues been so far? Have you ran into any bad bugs or anything?
The only bug I've run into is when I take people out on great events, it sounds like their bodies stuck in the environment and it rattles like that constantly. So I have to walk away like 10 feet for it to delete the sound file and then come back. That is it. Which don't get me wrong, that shouldn't be in the
Yeah.
game, obviously. That's annoying, but I've not run into anything where it's like, oh, where you like it's impacting me and stuff like that, losing me progress and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have not ran into one like progression blocking bug or anything like that at all. I had one time where Kay just kind of floated for a second. Oh shit. Where she just floated for a second. But like other than that, I mean I'm some spotty enemy AI, but that's if we're calling that a bug, then I think every game in the world has kind of got some bugs. Um
I think the
that
last thing I do want to talk about as well, that she's not an interesting character.
no.
She doesn't, maybe she grows in the next few hours. She's really dull. Like the thing I also mentioned in the Discord is that my brain just switches off whenever she talks. Like it's very, very bland main character. It's nice that you have the little animal thing.
Nyx
There's
is
some
the
cute,
shit.
yeah, like there's some cute little, like when you go to the food stalls and stuff, that was amazing. Did you do the
Yes.
popcorn one?
I don't think so.
Um, they kind of drag it out a little bit with like quick. Have you done any of the food stall things?
I Are you talking about like when he'll just run off to
No, there's like a thing where you sit down and you sample food,
Oh,
and
I haven't done that.
they drag it out a long period of time of like quick time event things. But he does have cute moments while he's doing it, so it's like okay, I'll bear with this like click right trigger, move right, and it's yeah, it was really cute. They brought out like a corn on the cob, and then he puts it on the fire, and he's watching it, and then you're like, okay, let's speed it up. It's like cooking really slowly, and then it like pops up, and there's a quick time event of him like leaping through the
Leaf.
air and eating,
Oh man, that's
and
so dope.
it's like, man, you are the saving grace of this game for
Well,
like characters. I'm really loving them.
I think, okay, so here's the issue story-wise. I think the story actually gets really good, but she stays consistently meh.
Mm.
And I think a big problem with that for me is the fact that she looks so fucking alien like, man. And it's not a shot at the voice, the lady who plays her, who does the motion captures. She's bad as hell. I don't know what Ubisoft has. They just cannot get human characters right. They struggle with human character. I don't know if they got some cheap ass motion capture studio. I wouldn't imagine. I imagine that they're spending as much as anybody else to mocap and shit, but something's severely off with their human motion capture. Like it's
Mm.
really, really bad. But you know, and it's the weird thing where you'll have moments where the cutscenes are really, really high quality, and then they'll just it down to like bottom of the barrel, you know, double A just trying to disguise itself as triple A, like shit that you would see from uh Spiders in 2007, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's something they do need to improve on for sure.
But it gets to a point later in the game where it's like just a straight up heist movie, pretty much. Like it's a blockbuster where kind of Mass Effect 2y, you're going out and trying to recruit different people and get them together for this big score. Like, dude, it's the story is actually really, and I just got to a point where literally just today, the high point of the entire story for me was it involving Nyx as well. Really, really strong shit. And the once again, the lady who voices Kay, her performance is rock solid. It's like, give this lady more to work with, Ubisoft. Come on. Really staff up your fucking your writing department and motion capture. Like, get that shit going. Cause you gotta get people into the story. But
Yeah.
yeah, A tier for me, man. Do you want
Uh,
anything on this list? Do you want to pick at more than the other? Or do you want to go in order?
so what I'll do is I'll quickly throw Stalker in the D2.
Ooh.
Um, and I know that's probably going to sound crazy, and I'm going to be very brief with it. It's what I was dreading when they announced it because I know how bad they run on PCs. And don't get me wrong, a lot of what they've accomplished is really, really good, but the much like a lot of games, it just fell off in the second half, big time. Um, very, very, very buggy, and it wasn't even to the point where it was ignorable. It was like helicopters flying through environments underneath the ground, shooting you and stuff like that. Like it
Oh
was
my
very,
God.
very bad. So if it would have been consistent with the opening like hour levels, maybe I would have kept it like a B. But that heavily like it drags the story out as well. Like the mission structure towards the end of that game is just one push for each area constantly, and you get like very little breaks. And this is a game where like everything has uh item conditions. So it wears down, like your guns wear down, your armor wears down, and it's just constant attrition to the point where that's why it was annoying me because it was like, okay, I'm barely scraping through each of these checkpoints, and then I got to like the big finale thing where it's like pulling out all the blockbuster things, all the helicopters cut, and then the game just shit the bed. And I was like,
Jesus.
okay.
You want to rapid fire run through a couple of yours if there's anything on here that you want to.
So I will throw Kunitsu in there Kanitsu Gami, it will be. I'll
I
put
can
that in
add.
B.
Okay, I can add a tier if you want me to of the didn't finish but enjoyed if you
So
want me to.
yeah, I didn't finish Kanitsu,
Okay.
but I will say I enjoyed it. I enjoy
Well,
it. Like I've played about 4 hours of it. It's very, very weird and very, very strange and doing its own thing. I don't think it's going to be for many people. I don't know if you tried it. Did you try it while it was in Game
I
Pass?
played like 30 minutes of it and then I don't remember what else. Oh,
Flintlock came out
no,
around about the same time.
Dungeons of Hinterberg. I was knee
Yeah.
deep in Dungeons of Hinterberg. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I also put that in the Discord. I found it funny that Trey played what do you call it? Flintlock. He's almost done with it. He opted for that. I opted for Kanetsu for like the longest amount of time I put into it, and then you went for Dungeons and Hinterberg. So I
That's
was like, yeah, the
funny.
power of Game Pass hitting it like completely in three different directions. That's amazing.
I think I would have liked
Um,
Kanitsugami though if it would have came out. I don't know what it was about Dungeons of Hinterberg. That just like really, really clicked with me. But yeah, it was I thought the combat was fun, just more kind of actiony, no stamina
hmm.
meter, nothing like that. Just yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was. It's something that just scratched that itch. I don't think it's gonna win any like awards or anything, anything like
No.
any praise or like that. But yeah, it's definitely like a good 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Um, Wolfenstein Youngblood, I'll put in C. This is don't play this if you're going to play it solo. It would be
Mm,
my first big warning. Yes, it is in the vein of the modern Wolfenstein games. You know the gunplay is good and stuff like that, but oh, you're talking about Kay being a badly written character. Them two main characters in that game are dreadful. Like
really?
some of the worst writing I've ever seen, and some of the weird transitioning scenes, like in the elevators and stuff, just what they decide to do and stuff like that. It's very hate using the word, but it is genuinely cringe. Like you sit there and you're like, oh, why are you doing this? So I don't know what they were doing when they were doing that story. But yeah, and it's a very weak. Out of all the Wolfenstein games that have come out since New Order, it definitely is the weakest of the lot.
Let's hope that they can turn the tide around in December, man. I'm looking forward to damn Indiana Jones. I'll go ahead and toss in Gears 5. I would throw Gears 5 in the A tier. I
Ooh, heavy praise.
I love this. I think it's maybe the best lighting I've ever seen in a video game. Like the lighting, the atmosphere. I mean, just it felt like Resident Evil 2 at times, where I'm going through these more spacious, not so linear corridors, and I'm, taking a turn into this back alley, and then I end up going into a bathroom, and I'm just kind of looking around, and as I'm looking around, a fucking creature pops out of the damn stall and it's like crawling towards me like a little robot creature. And I have to blast him. Like it really felt like Resident Evil at times. And then opens up into this almost open worldish thing where it's not overcrowded, it's not overpacked with shit to do, but you'll go off on these little meaningful side adventures. And um having the lightning striking as you're I don't even know on a sled fucking I don't even know
Yeah, it's
what
like a
the
wind. It's like a wind thing, isn't it?
yeah, like a wind sled, I guess. I don't even know if that's a
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, these lightnings crashing around you, and it's like this red clay that you're driving, and it's just popping up all over the place. And you got these blues contrasting with these reds and the red smoke and the blue lighting. It just makes for a fucking beautiful, beautiful atmosphere. Like very, very immersive. Um, just a great looking, great playing game. Best story from the I I'm totally in the opposite camp of most people. For me, Gears 4 and 5 are the best Gears games by a mile to me. And everything but pre-coalition, I think is much lower quality in my opinion. But I think a lot of that could come down to multiplayer. Maybe Gears 4 and 5 have worse multiplayer than 1 through 3, but in terms of single player campaign, Gears 4 and 5 are impeccable.
I think it's the thing of exposure at the time. and you latch onto that meaningfulness of experiencing it at launch. Because it's the same people in the camp of saying like Halo 1, 2, and 3 are like some of the most incredible games ever, and it's just like I don't know about
Yeah.
that one. I
I'll
think
give it
that's heavily blinded by nostalgia.
I'll give it to the original trilogy. I think they have better boss fights than 4 and 5.
Oh well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But
But
everything else.
the gameplay, visuals is a given. Like you would hope in the time
Yeah.
that's passed, it would look better. But every other aspect of it is leaps and bounds above it. And the thing I wanted to say as well, the way it handled the open world in air quotes aspect of Gears 5 was really well done. It's what I would have hoped they would have done in Halo Infinite because Halo Infinite just gives you the open world and then places the missions inside of it, which I think is a complete wrong direction. They should have done exactly what they did in Gears 5, where they give you the linear open chapters in the beginning of the game with the opening, and then they give you this big exploration area.
Kind
Because
of
then
like
it doesn't
Outlaws.
feel, yep, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of Outlaws is pretty linear in terms of your actual, and once, not to go back to that, but level design in Outlaws is actually really good. Like through indoor environments and shit, and then you get the full open world to just kind of explore. But a lot of the missions take place in a more linear fashion, and that's, yeah, same thing with Gears 5. A lot of the missions are more based around really well designed, specifically crafted linear set pieces, and then you get a big open world to kind of go and dick around and kind of do some side activities.
Did you want to bung in another one, or did you want me to knock off a few?
Yeah, knock off a few.
Okay. Both of these in the S tier, and both of these tackle the theme of death, and they're both JRPGs. Coincidence? I think not. Lost Odyssey and Persona 3 are both S tiers. I was not as warm to Persona 3 at the beginning of the year. I think that was due to like JRPG fatigue coming off of Infinite Wealth, booting it up and being very fresh on having played Persona 3 Portable. So the changes that were in that game, it was just like, oh no. Like voice actor changes and some of the music that they did with the remixes didn't gel with me as much, but it's still just absolutely incredible. The from the third from one third on, story wise, it's still as strong and powerful as before. Probably even better with like the upgrades and visuals and stuff like that. I'm it's so hard for me to choose between Persona 3 and Persona 4 as to what I think. Like any given day it can swing like a pendulum because they're both some of the greatest stories I've ever seen put into a game when it's tackling a specific theme. And Lost Odyssey also does that. Is there any questions you wanted to ask about Persona 3?
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So, like, remakes obviously qualify for Game of the Year.
Hmm.
What makes this like? Would it not qualify? Is it not enough of a remake, or like?
It's so I don't know because it does. You would think that it needs to change on like multiple levels, and it does because you have Tartarus is what it's called. It's basically this massive tower that you explore, and that's where it segments off like the actual end game of the story. So you can only go to certain portions at certain parts in the story, and then it's locked off, and then you progress the story, and then you're able to go. And it fixed that because there was a massive fatigue when exploring that of very samey environments. So they've tackled that, and visually they're very, very different when you go to like the new areas and stuff. So that's good. They've obviously upgraded the interactions with characters, and they've also added a few things that weren't in the original. But I don't know because it's still heavily the core bones of Persona 3. It's just if it had released now, this is what it would have been. So I don't know if it would qualify.
I got you.
I think that
So
would be a little bit of a stretch. I think Elden Ring, this is the thing, is like, where do you draw the line though, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
because that is just technically a DLC, it's not a game and stuff like that. That also just does like, when you break it down to a core level of like critique, it does only change a few things in the same way that Persona 3 only changes a few things.
yeah, it's weird because like Dead Space or um Dead Space is a prime example of a game that really
Mm.
didn't change a ton. A few things here and there, but like it's still pretty much the core exact same experience that you got from the first one. And I would imagine that that could qualify. So it's just, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think that Elden Ring is a weird example where I do think it might actually end up hitting that final six, but it's going to be a weird year to see what gets slotted in there. Not that it matters. But you go ahead, man. What were you going to say about Lost Odyssey?
So Persona 3 is about accepting death as like the main theme, like not being afraid of it and just there's going to be adversities in your life and you accept them and move on with it and make sure that, everybody has pain, but you all come together and help each other out when it matters. Man, Lost Odyssey story. Like I'd heard about like how good of a game it was and everything. It flies under the radar because it was an Xbox 360 like launch title and a JRPG and stuff like that. But holy crap, the theme that it tackles is heavy. So you play that guy in the middle on the picture is I think his name is Kaim, and he's an immortal. So he can't die. He is completely like he if he dies, he just comes back. It doesn't matter what happens to him. So he goes through 1,000 years of just being this wandering guy and just bumping into people. And he has these dream sequences throughout the game. So he meets this young girl, for instance, and I'm drawing a blank on what they were called. They were basically some people who went from east to west in kind of like an inspiration of like the American West kind of thing, of moving from one coast to the other. And that's their whole life, is that they start off east to go to west, but it doesn't matter how far they go, it's never ending for them. And he ends up bumping into her as a child and then bumping into her as an adult. He's not aged at all. And she's like, that's kind of weird and stuff. And then he even bumps into her she's dead when he next runs into, and that's the whole theme of like this heaviness of, would you really want to live forever?
Right.
Because
See everybody
every
you
other
love.
person around you dies.
Yeah.
And that is every single time it brings these dream sequences, it's just tragedy and it's just gut wrenching because there's so many of them where it's not even just like him experiencing that, it's how it breaks other people and stuff like that. And he has to tell white lies, like this blind girl and stuff like that, and telling them stuff that in their final moments, like, yeah, we will meet again and stuff like that. And he knows that it's not going to
Damn, not
happen.
true.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the thing I always like the most about Wolverine's character from X-Men is like he suffers from that same thing of
Mm.
everything that he loves, he slowly sees. That's why the whole Johnny Cash thing it fits so well with the that hurt Trent Reznor song, but Johnny Cash covered it and they used the Johnny Cash version in Logan. It fits so well. Um, but yeah, I I I've heard great things about Lost Odyssey. Did you end up finishing it?
I haven't finished it. I lost like an hour of progress and kind of got annoyed.
Ooh,
It has that
yeah.
old-timey JRPG save system of where it's fixed save points. And it was like random encounter, and it's just like whittling me down. I was like, come back to this like later. But like the story is flawless. From
Yeah.
what I've played, it is I'd say it's better than Persona 3 and
Story
Persona 4.
wise.
In its story and the way it tackles it and how impactful it is, I think it edges it. And its gameplay is aged really well for like a turn-based JRPG. It's
And you did
crazy.
end up finishing Persona 3 because you weren't
Yeah.
hot on it and then you went back to it, finished it up and got a lot
Yeah.
you were a lot hotter on it. Nice.
Yep.
Um You want to hit, yeah, go ahead and hit like 2 more years and then I'll close off with Oblivion and Skyrim.
Tales of Arise was the DLC. I'll put that in. I can't put it in C. That's it. Definitely wasn't Youngblood. B for Beyond the Dawn. It's the first time I believe Tales has done a DLC, and I think it's the perfect example of don't fix what isn't broken. Just move on. That DLC didn't add anything. It felt very, very forced. It's obviously like I really enjoyed Tales of Arise. The gameplay loops incredible and stuff, but what it was trying to tell was just like these characters have already, you've fully developed them. They don't need any more of that. Like this is why you see things like Persona where they go with a brand new cast. Like you've reached your ending point, so just move on.
Yeah, I was hoping that that team would go on to make something else like Scarlet Nexus. I enjoyed the
Mm.
premise of Scarlet Nexus a lot. Because it's the same team, right? The team that did Tales of Arise also did Scarlet Nexus, I think. Um,
I'm not 100%.
the only
I know
thing,
it's definitely it's Bandai published. I know that for sure.
yeah, the only thing that ever put me off of Scarlet Nexus was the visual novel aspect of it. Like the visual novel for the cutscenes, like, man, this shit sucks. I wish it had, because the gameplay's awesome and then just Devil May Cry
Mm.
pretty much. Sick as shit. Um, yeah, what did you want to hit next?
I can throw High on Life in there as well as a B.
B, nice. Yeah, that's probably where I'd
Um,
put it too.
it's yeah, it's just Rick and Morty. Like
Yeah.
if you haven't experienced Rick and Morty and stuff, like you're gonna come in and be like, wow, this is like crude ass humor. But it's just the same things that made you like laugh. It made me laugh. Where you go to the lake and stuff, and he just hits you with that thing of where it's like, oh, you
Oh my
fishing?
God.
Ah, man, I'm just trying to psych myself up to kill myself. It's just like Jesus Christ.
I
Okay.
love that line. That was my favorite line of the whole game. There's actually a couple of them though. They're like, what the
Mm,
fuck? This is really well written, man. The
yeah.
movement in High on Life is really good. That surprised me a
Mm.
lot. It's actually really fun to just kind of move around and swing with your little whatever the is it a tongue that pops out or some crazy
Yeah,
shit that
the
you
the blade is like elasticy and will
yeah.
attach to surfaces. And they knew exactly what they were doing because people were very like, I don't know if they'll pull that off. And that's like the first boss fight is
Yeah.
that it shows that it's not going to just be you're sitting behind cover, you're jumping and you're doing all this, and there's a little bit more to it. Don't get me wrong, it's still fairly simple, a lot of the systems, but yeah, it's much more engaging than I was expecting.
Yeah, it is. It's a fun ass game, man. I actually just got my physical copy of it.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
it's a
that's
good
why I
time.
ended up playing it because mine
Oh,
finally
right.
arrived.
Dude, limited run, right?
Yep.
I I'm not gonna grab it. It's all the way over there. But I got my damn copy of Pentiment and the damn discs out of the case. It's like the one thing y'all do is physical game, trying to preserve physical games and trying to like what why the fuck would
What do
you
you mean it
ship
was out of the?
like whenever you because you know how usually they're packaged in those nice packages that you
Yeah,
open it up, the games there, it's all like everything comes out, the disc is in the case, like
yeah.
it's a loose in mine. I'll grab it real quick.
That's crazy. No, that's crazy because I didn't have that, but my High on Life disc wouldn't install.
Really?
I was running into issues of I got the other two games because I had Grandia arrive, Grandia HD collection that
Hmm.
flawlessly installed and it was all in the case perfectly. Pentiment also arrived, same thing, flawlessly in the case, installed fine. High on Life got to 46% and it was running error codes on the Xbox saying we've run into an issue,
Weird.
we've run into an issue, and I like contact them. I was like, this is weird.
I'm gonna grab it real quick just to I don't want people to
As
think I'm
proof.
shitting on it for no reason. All right. Fuck, I'm fucking shit up over here. Can you hear this?
Oh, it's a yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so shitty.
Limited run, man. What the hell? That you can't call yourself a damn, that can't be your bread and butter whenever you're sending this shit. That's and it you can
See, that's
see
why,
it's
yeah,
all sealed, completely sealed. That's
it's
crazy.
why I
I mean,
appreciate resellers when you buy it off of eBay and they put like a tiny bit of like cardboard in the box to make sure that it
yeah.
presses against the disc so it doesn't come out like that.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's like,
It's,
dude, when I get this from Best Buy or from GameStop or whatever, it's like, yeah, okay, that's to be expected. But limited run, come on, brother. But
you're meant to be the saviors, guys.
yeah, what else you want to you? I'll let you actually go ahead and clean up your entire what is it,
Um,
five there, and I'll hit my
so
last two.
Wonderlands we'll do next. That can be a C. So because I'm rating it on what I played. I already
Mm.
finished the base game. This was because I did a bunch of 100%ing at the beginning of the month, which I should rattle off the things I 100%ed. It was Tales of Arise, Wonderlands, and King Kong. And the DLC in that game is woeful. Like I'm being generous putting it at C, and the only reason I'm putting it at C is because of the base game being so good. Them DLCs were a complete waste of time because it's got no story at all. It is an arena gauntlet thing of where it pulls you into like 5 stages and then you fight a boss. And that's what your season pass for what I would argue is the best Borderlands experience. That's what you went with when you've given Borderlands 1, 2, and 3 actual story content and that gets none.
Wait, you think
That's
Wonderlands is the
wild.
best Borderlands game?
Yeah.
Ooh, well, let's bump it up a little bit. Let's grade the entire package. Because I mean, like with Tales of Arise, we specifically got the DLC, so you're grading that specifically. But with Tiny Tina,
Yeah.
we got the whole game here. So if you since you 100% of the entire game went through all
Mm,
that, you want to bump it to B?
I would I would push it to B. I don't think it can
Yeah.
go to A because them 4 DLCs are such ankle weights.
Oh,
If it
there's
didn't have
four of
them,
them.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's a lot.
So it was like 6 hours a piece for the DLCs of doing monotonous crap. So
Are you
yeah,
excited
it
for the new
was
Borderlands game? Four?
before Wonderlands. 3 was my favorite for like gameplay wise. Like as a enjoyment factor, it's the best the game's ever played, but the story was crap. Um, if they can fix that, but this is the thing is that I've never enjoyed Borderlands humor. I just don't
Hmm.
find it funny. The reason I enjoyed Wonderland so much is because it heavily, heavily leans into like D&D
Hmm.
and going for like that D&D nerdy jokes and stuff. And it's like, okay, this is a little bit more bearable and stuff. But their base humor is, yeah, I just don't really get on with it. Uh, so yeah, I
I want
don't
to
know.
go
Sorry, go
ahead.
on.
I was gonna say I want to hear you talk about Saints Row 4. Why did you end up playing that? That's so. I've actually
So,
been thinking about going back to Saints Row 4 as well.
um, the co-op partner that I had for Youngblood is just
Uh,
they just want to like play a bunch of co-op games, and we were rattling off. And the thing is that with me being like an achievement, you know, collector and stuff like that, I very rarely will replay something. If I've 100% something, I'm not gonna be interested in going back because I want to be at least progressing towards something. And they were like listing off things, so that it was like, oh well, Saints Row has co-op and stuff like that. So we've been playing that. I don't know what to say. Like it's just fun.
it is
It's
legitimately
just
fine.
they they knew by Saints Row 2 they couldn't compete with GTA, so they just turned the notch up to just let's just be stupid and run with it. So I would be putting that in A. Like, and this is why it hurt so much when that Saints Row reboot came out because it was just in no way, shape, or form close to Saints Row 4 or 3.
So I haven't played Saints Row 4. That's why I'm saying I was thinking about going back to it because I replayed Saints Row 1, 2, and Get Out of Hell, which I know is the DLC for 4. I played that. Um, like last 2 years, something like that. But I haven't revisited 4 in forever, and I replayed 3 whenever the remake or remaster came out.
The remaster came out.
And so it's just been forever since I've played 4. 4 is the one where you start off as the president, right?
Yeah.
And then you're signing like executive orders
Yeah.
to like
Either
cure.
fuck world cancer or fuck world hunger.
Yeah. And then that's also the one where you swap into like the 1950s
Mm.
setting at one point early on. Like, yeah, there's some sick shit in there. And then you're taking on aliens, right? Well, that's all that's I
Yeah,
guess that's also Saints Row 3 to a certain point too.
yeah, but it plays a much bigger role in Saints Row 4. They have so many like good references. Like the opening is Metal Gear Solid.
Flying out
You're
the
going through
plane.
like yeah, where you're flying out the plane and then you're doing like the insertion thing and it's doing the it's just yeah, it's just great. It's them firing on all cylinders, being a bit goofy, but landing with all of the humor that they're trying to land with. And it just yeah, it's the perfect package.
Yeah, man. I really, really enjoyed that game. I never understood the hate for 4 because like it's just kind of a continuation of the same tone as 3, just way over the
Yeah.
top, making it pretty much a superhero game in 4
Hmm.
by the end of it. I do think that
It's
whenever it got to that point where like the world was in total disarray, that it felt a little bit less like it just didn't feel as alive. That was intentional, obviously, but there was something about just being able to stroll around Steelport and like actually be able to see the different places you can go into, which you can go into buildings and shit here as well. But it just when once you're able to pretty much become Flash in Saints Row 4 and zip around, fly around, you never get in the car again.
yeah, it's Crackdown on crack is
Yeah.
what I would explain it as of where like in Crackdown you have all these powers, but at the same time there's no point in like there's no world building engagement
No.
because yeah, there's just power fantasy. Uh, King Kong, I'll put as B. It's it's crazy like what that game was achieving in 2006. Have you played this?
No, I've seen it though. It was a tech showpiece at the time.
Like holy shit! Like not even just that, like the way that it handles the minimal HUD UI. Like
Oh,
you have
really?
no HUD. Like you when you're aiming, when you have like the melee weapon, you put your like finger out to like do the thing. You have a
Oh,
gun,
wow.
you click the reload button and he goes free bullets left and stuff like that. Two on reserve, like two mags on reserve and stuff like that. So that there's no need for any like HUD UI cluttering the screen. Like it's very cinematic.
There were
It has a
tons of
little
destructible environments and shit, weren't there?
yeah, there's like burning down bushes and stuff like that, and you didn't even know you can play as Kong.
Ugh,
There's like entire sections where you just are beating the shit out of these like massive dinosaurs as King Kong and stuff. And it's
that's so
yeah,
sick.
for a 2006 game, it's incredible how well that's aged.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, that's another one that's like one of those early really easy achievements. It's actually really fun, right?
Mm. That's why I
Yeah.
picked it on the list. I was like, I need a few easy ones to so yeah,
Nice.
you just beat the game and it's 1000 G.
Oh,
So
wonderful. Yeah, that I that's sick as shit. I'll have to play it at some point. I'm not a big like King Kong guy, but I do remember at the time like the marketing for it and shit. I was like, yo, because I don't remember what trailer it was, but I remember something where there's like trees falling down or something that just looked super sick. Um,
mm.
so shit, yeah. So you want to, how about we go to Suicide Squad next?
Yep,
You finished that?
I did.
What you think?
I think the base vanilla game all the way up to the ending was good. I think I was a little bit too harsh on it, perhaps with like initial impressions on it. It's really cinematic. Like
Yes.
I can see why you went so deep on the budget and why you dug yourself that big hole. It's a really, really cinematic story. The boss fights are really good for each of the things leading up to the final boss. That final boss is that knocks it down like an entire category for me, maybe even two.
Yeah.
Um, I really enjoy it. I played Deadshot the whole game. I didn't even switch to any other character. I didn't want to sit there and be like, I have to grind this, I have to grind Harley, I have to grind Shark and stuff. I was like, I'll just
Same.
stick with Deadshot. I'm enjoying his ability, so why, fix something that isn't broken?
I did the exact same thing.
Um, just wish it wasn't a live service game because not only did because the story is good, the mission structure is crap.
It's
Like the base
awful.
missions in every single thing that isn't a leading boss fight is whack. Some of them set pieces of the boss fights, one in particular, which I'm sure I don't want to spoil it, for one character, was incredible. It's probably one of the best like experiences in that Arkham verse that they've done. And then you come back out to the main normal missions, and it's just like, yeah, grind these 10 turrets and stuff like this, kill 10 turrets and do this, and it's just mindless crap.
The live service bloat seeped into the actual game, like the actual main campaign. It has remnants of that live service filth that just kind of corrupts the entire experience. It's that whenever you're guarding a truck that's just driving slowly down a
Yep.
road, like that's some of the most boring shit ever. And you do that for, I mean, an hour probably towards the end of the game.
I think you do that section, like that exact objective about 3 or 4 times
It's crazy.
in a fairly short campaign, all things considered. And that final boss to then just be like, yeah, you have to kill him 10 more times.
Yeah.
I was like, you're out of your mind. Like, who thought this was, and that's what I mean by like, I wish it wasn't a live service game because
Yeah.
there's no, because I'm sure you did that boss and then you moved on. You didn't do it 10 more times. There's
No.
no payoff when you beat him that one time, and it's just like that's really anticlimactic. Like you give
It's
us like a 20-second cutscene, and then it's just like, and get back to it, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, it just feels so cheap, man. Like if you're gonna commit to that live service ship, you got to commit, dude. You a fucking having a repetitive ass boss fight to go and do over and over again. Like, how is that gonna keep people engaged? But regardless, where would you rank it, man?
See,
Yeah,
ahead
that's
ahead of Youngblood.
yeah.
Let's see, would be the best way of like giving that a tiny bit of praise. Like the cutscenes save it from being a D, and the boss fights leading up to it in their spectacle and stuff.
How about Asuras Wrath? I never finished this. I played the first maybe hour or two. It is a badass showpiece of a game. Like it is a technical juggernaut. Final Fantasy 16 vibes for sure.
Mm.
Like very, very humongous bosses that you're going up against, flying throughout. You're like flying in space or some shit at the beginning of that game. I
Yeah,
forgot.
that
Yeah.
opening like hour is incredible. I
It's
didn't finish it. I did about 5 hours. I think I'm in like the second big chunk of the story. It's got my favorite voice actor as the main guy, so thumbs up, Liam O'Brien. And it's ah, it's so hard to say S because obviously I've not finished it. But like if it keeps up the way it is easily an S. Like it's so damn good. And I know some people groaned at like how many quick time events. I think in a game like this where it fully leans into it, it it suits it really well.
You want to
So
throw it in the A for now?
yeah, I'll put it in a
Nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed the couple hours I spent with it. I don't know why I never finished that, but yeah, I need to go back to it. I loved the set pieces.
hmm.
All right. So now we get to the final two. This is pretty much where all of my time in August went. I played Oblivion and Skyrim in 1 month, finished the main story on both of them. Probably
Whew.
25 hours into Oblivion, probably like 30 something into Skyrim. Like I said, just kind of wanted to go through the main story. I had a Bethesda itch. I don't know where the fuck this came from. I just wanted to play a Bethesda game. I thought about going back to Starfield, and I was like, you know what? How about I actually give the Elder Scrolls a real shake? I've played Skyrim before, never clicked with it. Never played Oblivion though. So I jumped into Oblivion first, and I just instantly clicked with it. I instantly clicked with Oblivion. I have no clue why. I can't really, it's outdated as shit. The mechanics, it's so janky. Floaty as hell combat. Feels like you're hitting thin air. Feels like none of because I played as whatever warrior. Like I pretty much just went around with a sword and a shield and just bashed motherfuckers' heads in. None of that shit feels good. But there's just something about their worlds. Like whenever you're going off and you see a portal, and then you jump into this portal and it's like a huge gothic castle and shit's on fire, and like I don't they do world building so well. And sure, it's not as like when you jump into Skyrim, we'll get to it, but Skyrim is just that it's on steroids. It's Oblivion on steroids in terms of all that shit. Skyrim is gorgeous, man. It is beautiful. Like it's one of the only games I've ever played where I was just sitting there taking
Mm.
screen captures of some of these locations that I was going to. It is a beautiful game. Oblivion, I would put Oblivion in the B tier probably. I'd probably throw it in the A tier. I'd throw Oblivion in the A tier, and I would throw Skyrim in the S tier. I
Oof.
in
Heavy,
terms
heavy praise.
the only complaint I really have for Skyrim is that the ending fell pretty flat. It
Yep.
it it fell pretty flat, but it was so crazy going from Oblivion to Skyrim and seeing this humongous technological jump that Bethesda made. The combat is actually weighty whenever you're spinning, you're connecting with your blow, spinning, landing another strike on a separate enemy. You're throwing your flames with one hand. Like there's just the combat is so much better. The presentation is so much better. And of course, these things are going to happen and evolve and progress over time as Oblivion came out in like 2000 and again, what, six or something?
Yeah,
2000.
I think it was also a very early release. It might have been even within the first year of release for
Yeah.
360.
And but regardless, it playing them back to back, it made me appreciate Skyrim so much more. I mean, I'm out that bitch summoning dragons to
Mm.
aid me in battle, fucking shooting fire from my mouth, slowing down time in battle. Like I have all of my little abilities with was it like the right tap or something on the directional pad? All of your abilities come up, you're cycling through them, so it kind of adds a slightly strategic layer into combat. Enemy variety is much better. You're fighting vampires and gargoyles and then uh bears and dragons and then you got your kind of standard enemies, your humans, your spiders, your skeletons, all that kind of typical shit. um and then speaking of vampires, you have that full vampire. I don't know if it's a side quest or main quest. I'm not really sure, but like you can literally become a vampire, shapeshift into this big old fucking gargantuan
Mm.
vampire dude, and you got a full slate of abilities that are specifically tailored around um that vampire. And yeah, I to be fair, there is also some kind of cool shit in Oblivion with the vampire subquest. I didn't end up finishing the subquest in Oblivion, but yeah, man.
It's definitely something they've always got right in the Elder Scrolls, is the vampire quest lines and stuff like that. The
Yeah.
thing I want to like hammer home as to why Starfield let me down so much as it did is that when you're going through Oblivion and you're going to these like marked locations, they're so much more enjoyable to explore. And the
Oh
same
yeah.
with Skyrim, that at least you know that there's either going to be a story there that they're trying to tell, or there'll be a unique piece of loot. When you're going on Starfield and you're landing on these planets, you go into this cave. Sometimes there's just nothing there. It's so anticlimactic as to it takes you so long to travel that distance for you to get nothing in return. And that's the thing that disappointed so many people, and they were so just hands on their ears, like, well, blah blah blah. We don't really want to listen to that criticism. This is what we've chosen to do. And it's like the whole reason people fell in love with your games is because the environmental storytelling. And you're choosing to shun that as your strongest point. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, man, I was just roaming around and ended up finding the arena in Oblivion.
Mm,
And I go in, I mean, that's 2, 3 hours of my life that were just lost
yeah.
constantly going back. and just doing those battles one after another, one after another. Um, yeah, man. Oblivion does have some really, really impeccable world building. And I think that so with Starfield, the thing I really liked was it told a direct, compelling narrative. Like you didn't have to find the compelling narrative. Like it was there in front of you. I don't really think that's the case with either Oblivion or Skyrim. It's the main quests are good, but like you said, it's more about the story you're building as you're playing, the story you're finding as you're playing. Um, the the thing with Oblivion, so towards the once I finish the game, and there's a great ending in Oblivion as well, like really badass moment,
Spectacle for the year it come out like was crazy.
no doubt. Um, but like I wasn't really compelled by any of the characters' motives or anything like that. I was just more the world was the thing I was invested in. I was like, I don't want anything bad to happen to this world. And you're trying to prevent that from taking place. So you're invested in the world once again, not the characters. But in terms of building your own stories with that vampire thing, after I'd completed the game, I literally built this story in my head where it was like, okay, I was the only person around at the time of events when when that thing happens in Oblivion, not to spoil a game from fucking almost 20 years ago, but when that thing happens, I was like, okay, I was the only person around in that radius. Something fucked up my character. And so as you're going around, because I kept playing after I even finished it, and I started doing the vampire side quest. And your character starts looking different, appearing different.
Uh,
And I'm like, something happened in that moment at the end of the game that kind of turned my character. And that's the shit that they really do well is giving you some way to create your own plot inside of their fucking epic worlds.
yeah, it's why people gravitated towards Fallout more because not only is it a lot easier to do that kind of thing in a Fallout game, a lot of the content creators are the ones that did it as well, which pushed it into popularity of doing that kind of mindset of, okay, you can't tackle the game in a role-playing aspect in the way that you can like a D&D game, but you tell your oh, you forge your own story and stuff and you mold it the way that you want. And I think that is the power of a Bethesda RPG is that a lot of the stuff they give you the tools and they give you the world, but they don't give you the push for the story as hard as many other games. They let you kind of do your own thing. And I think that's why
Totally.
people fall in love with it because it's simple enough to get into and magical enough to care about.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. And I'll say just to reiterate or to further explain why I would put Skyrim above Oblivion, even though I think maybe Oblivion has, I don't know. The main quest, I think it's kind of a wash. I think they're both okay. I think Oblivion has a more consistently good main narrative with a stronger payoff. So maybe I would give the main quest to Oblivion. But I think that I found cooler stories in Skyrim, just side stories in Skyrim that I would kind of just stumble upon. And I also feel like world building in terms of level design, I think you get to see cooler shit in Skyrim. Like I
Hmm.
think you get to go to cooler places and whenever there's more like little puzzle solving thrown in there and using your abilities to solve puzzles and using like your what is it like whirlwind sprint or whatever it's called where you
You know, the
take
dragon
off.
shouts and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can use those in ways that interact with the environment. So there creates like this new level of puzzle solving that really wasn't as present in Oblivion. Um, and then also, like I said, I just think that whenever you enter a cave or something, you kind of knew what you were going to get with Oblivion. It was going to typically be the same thing every single time. In Skyrim, like you would go through these interior, there was awesome, awesome interior design in Skyrim. Like you would see some cool, cool ass places that typically in fantasy role playing games, you see a lot of the same shit over and over and over. I really never felt like that in Skyrim. I felt like I was constantly, you know, seeing something new, just freshening up those senses a little bit.
I guess as a quick little like curveball, adding Starfield into the equation, like what would you rate one, two, three? One being like the most enjoyable.
I think I would go Skyrim, Starfield, Oblivion. And if you wanted to do Fallouts, I think I would go Skyrim, Fallout. I think I would go Skyrim, Starfield, Fallout 3, if New Vegas counts. I don't know. Well, I'd have to think about that more. But yeah, I think I would go Skyrim number one. I really
But
do, man.
Skyrim is your top dog
I
Bethesda RPG.
I think so. I think so. I mean, I'm gonna go back to Starfield and play that Shattered Space. It could just be recency bias because I fucking love Starfield. And I'm not like I don't think Skyrim's a S tier game in a sense of like, it wouldn't be on my top 10 list, but how I look at S tier is like a 9.5 or better, or a 9, in those higher 9 ranges. And that's if I was to grade Skyrim, it would be somewhere in that like 9.5 or better territory.
Yeah, I think, and it's also important to remember this is for the month as well, in relation
Yeah,
to the month for it. So out of all the games, that was your S tier, experience of all the other things that you played. So
totally. Totally. And you know, like obviously this is all subjective, and I'm not trying to objectively say Skyrim is a 9.5 or greater, but I think if I was to personally rank that experience that I had with it, and it's a game that out of everything on here other than Outlaws because I haven't finished it, but out of everything on here, like I'm gonna go back to Skyrim at some point and play more of it. Like there's still I mean, I put whatever 35 hours, something like that into
there's
Skyrim.
hundreds.
Yeah, there's so much shit. I want to go and, join different factions and learn different skills. And that's another thing about Skyrim. The upgrade system is so fun, where there's so much in terms of new mechanics that are introduced into Skyrim that weren't in Oblivion. So like I'm just kind of experimenting with shit. Like I went with my fire build as my main, like I kept upgrading the fire blast over and over and over, and kind of leaning a little bit more magical. Whereas with Oblivion, I went straight up warrior. And like I would
Mm.
like to go and kind of see what other spell caster builds I can create. Like I might create a whole new character in Skyrim because I think there's just that much replayability and variety on offer that I want to kind of fuck around with all of it.
Hmm. That's awesome that because this was the first time that you went through and finished both of these, right?
Yeah, yeah. First time I ever played
That's
Oblivion
good.
at all,
Mm.
and the first time I finished Skyrim. I've put like maybe 4 or 5 hours into Skyrim before, no more than that. Um, but this is the first time I was like, I just got the Bethesda itch, and man, I,
The big
I,
the big ticks off, like game was.
yeah,
So
yeah, 60 hours or so combined, something like that. So I mean, I pretty much took up all of my August, and then closing off with Outlaws and some Gears 5 in the mix there just to sprinkle a little bit of linearity on top, which is not even totally linear. But yeah, man, I think that next month I'll definitely have Outlaws finished, and Space Marine 2, Astrobot. Um there's something else in September that I think I'm gonna dive into as well that I'm kind of forgetting right now.
yeah, this is the time of year like August onward where you just get bombarded.
Yeah.
Because yeah, the most anticipated thing, if you couldn't guess, is Space Marine 2 for me. Next upcoming, I think it comes out in like a week for the early access thing, which I've
Nice.
also bought into because I'm an idiot.
I didn't grab that one, but I did grab. Oh, I'm on the thing right. Actually, I can go over here. September 2024 games. Let's see if there's anything. Man, I don't want to say the biggest thing, but one of the biggest things about Game Informer closing down is not having that damn Game Informer list anymore, man. I love
Mm.
Game Informer had the best, most like well curated list of all the upcoming games, and the most succinct, just easy to read, easy to digest. And now I guess my internet's fucking up. It's not going to load this website. Um, well, fuck it. We'll call it. We'll call it here. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, Loon. I appreciate you for doing this with me here today. And we shall come back with our September ranking next month. I hope y'all enjoy. Leave a like if you do enjoy, share it with a buddy, all that good shit. And we shall see you very soon. Goodbye.